Hello, and welcome to the Functional Nurse Academy podcast. This is your show host, Melissa Schreidfetter, founder of the Functional Nurse Academy. Welcome, everyone. I have another great guest lined up for you today. She has such an amazing background, and she really is doing God's work in this world. So today I am joined by one of my Functional Nurse Academy graduates, Karen Bettison, who is a board certified functional medicine practitioner with her own virtual private practice, Threadstone Integrative Health. She is also a part-time surgical nurse. She has been a nurse for 39 years, holds a master's degree in nursing education, and is also a board-certified wound care nurse. She formerly served for 19 years in West Africa as a nurse, Bible translator, and literacy specialist. She has authored numerous linguistic books in 5 different languages, as well as a missionary memoir of her faith journey through fear, anxiety, depression, and trauma entitled, I Will Fear No Evil. She and her husband have 4 grown children, 2 of which are adopted from Guatemala and 2 grandchildren. She lives on her homestead in rural Missouri with her husband, who is a pastor, teacher, and editor. Welcome, Karen. It's great to have you.
Thank you for having me.
So I was so impressed when you sent over your bio and all of your links and the book that you have out. And I can't wait to post all of this in the show notes because I think that your story is so incredibly inspiring. And I just love to hear about all of the great work that our students from FNA are doing. And I know that you really, went through the ringer with your health and you are so much better today through functional medicine. Can you tell us a little bit about what exactly were you struggling with and how are you doing now today?
Okay, yeah. Well, my health journey, I guess, began back when I was about 19 years old. I started having stomach pain, and I went to a doctor, and they said, "Oh, you have an ulcer. Here, take Zantac." And so that was kind of the beginning of it, and I just did what they said. And about the same time, I was studying in a Bible college. I was also going to nursing school under a lot of stress, and I was working my first nursing job when actually I got sent home from work from having severe abdominal pain, and that's when they really just, said, "Hey, this is something going on." And so I trusted that, and then I went overseas as a missionary. And of course, you probably know in third world countries or developing countries, like I was in West Africa, there are so many diseases and parasites, and they impact the gut. And so I really struggled with that for years. Cannot tell you how many episodes of amoebic dysentery I had, um, as well as different types of parasites that were diagnosed in the laboratory. And so, being a nurse, I was working as a nurse overseas, and I was able to get my own laboratory, my own microscope, and learn how to diagnose parasites like malaria and roundworm and different simple parasites, and including amoeba. And so I was not only able to identify it and treat myself, but also my colleagues. But, we used conventional medications and, of course that would get rid of them for a while and then they would come back. And of course there were bacterial infections. And so what did we do? We gave ourselves antibiotics. And so years of that, I think, had its effect on my gut. But what I didn't know all those years was that I also had celiac disease. And so that was not diagnosed until I was 44. So I went all those years without a proper diagnosis. And finally, when we did come back to the US after serving in West Africa for 19 years, a gastroenterologist did a scope and he said, "I'm 99% sure you have celiac disease." And my head just, just went, "Oh no," I know what that means. And so then, I went on the gluten-free diet and started feeling better, but was still having issues. And then they took my gallbladder out, and Over the years, of course, I struggled with anxiety, depression, and of course, was in a very stressful environment. But little did I know that my gut health also impacted my mental health as well. So, as I've learned functional medicine, that is one area that has really improved is my mental health after I was able to address my gut issues. Turns out I had leaky gut. Turns out I had two different dysbiotic bacteria. I also had candida. And so after addressing all those things with a functional approach, I was able to really start feeling better, eating foods that I hadn't been able to eat for a while. And I did a food sensitivity test on myself and was lactose intolerant, egg intolerant, and other things that were causing inflammation in my gut. So when I eliminated those things, I was able to improve. And in addition to all of that, during all those years, I was also developing some precancerous tumors. I had one in my thyroid, had 10 in my gut, large intestine. And so I also had some benign tumors. Like, why am I growing tumors? Why is this happening? And again, now I know a lot of that's driven by inflammation. And so once I was able to address that inflammation, I felt better about it, but it also set me on a journey looking at natural ways to treat cancer or prevent cancer because I didn't want to go down the cancer road. My husband and I had seen multiple friends, multiple family members not only die of cancer, but die horrible deaths with suffering from chemo and radiation and the effects of that. So we did not want to go that route. We thought, well, we're going to do things different. We're going to look and see how to do things naturally. So that also set the stage for me going down this functional medicine road.
Oh, I just love to hear that you are so much better now. And again, like using that, and I'm a big believer that God can use our suffering to do good in this world, and He can turn something he can turn our suffering into a blessing on the other side. And I love that you're helping so many clients now with these issues. But I do also want to touch real quick on mental health. Because again, as many of our listeners know, I used to be a psych nurse and psychiatric care in this country, it is so incredibly outdated. It's
Mhm.
terrible. There's really no thought into nutrition or how they don't even recognize the microbiome as being a factor there. And what is so important is that so many of our neurotransmitters are actually produced in the gut. And then also, when you mentioned cancer, so cancer is basically immune system gone wild, and the immune system cannot get control of cancer cells. Whereas a healthy person, if cells become cancerous, the immune system goes in there and cleans house. But then also, if you work on the gut, over 70% of the immune system is right outside of the gut. And we know everything is so
Mhm.
interconnected. So
Yeah.
I also, wanted to share too. So when you mentioned the mental health issues, and I feel like this is very common and for nurses to have issues with anxiety and depression. And we work in such high stressful jobs. We are exposed to so much human
Mhm.
suffering, and could really, really impact our mental health. But I also used to struggle with anxiety, and mine is completely gone. No
Mhm.
medications. I can literally
Mhm.
just go anywhere by myself, just talk to anybody. And again, I can also go live on all these platforms, and I just feel fine. And I could have never done that, 10 years ago.
Right. Right.
So, but yeah. Can you? I would love to hear because I really have not covered. I eventually would like to do a whole show where we talk about mental health, and I would like to touch on the mental health. I also want to chat about the cancer and the gut and how that's all related. But could you give me some insight about, what were some, targeted interventions that you did to help with your mental health?
Okay. Well, yeah, that's really a good question. So initially, before I really knew much about the functional medicine, Um, Due to some of the traumas that I had been through in West Africa, I actually developed PTSD. And when I came back to the States, obviously getting away from the cause of it helps a lot, but time heals that. But there's a certain degree to which those triggers would come back, you know, 15 years later. And so I explored different modalities like EMDR and trying to, you know, take those really hyper vigilant reactions to the back part of my brain where it wasn't going to be so much in the forefront of my brain. And that did make a difference, but I still found myself being triggered by things that had very little to do with the original trauma, but it's just those similar chemicals in your brain can be a trigger in themselves. And so I started exploring as a Christian. I really, did a lot. I do a lot of Bible studies with women, and I had actually started a group, a support group for women with depression, and we were looking at scripture and really developing kind of like a curriculum where it's just like renewing your mind and learning how to use your faith as a way to address the anxiety you feel and the depression or PTSD or whatever it is. And so I learned a lot in that. And then later in my functional medicine journey, I've come across a lot of people who talk about this thing called limbic system rewiring. And it's a kind of fits into the category of functional medicine. But it all made sense because that's kind of what I had already been trying to do. So there was one side of it I like to address with my clients if they're open to it is that whole renewing the mind, renewing the way that you handle stress, handle anxiety, and how you respond. But then on the functional medicine side, the physical side, I do believe the gut, like you said, is 80% of the problem. And so I found that my biggest challenges were in the areas of my gut health, my stress, the way I was handling stress, my cortisol levels, and also my sleep. And so I wasn't sleeping well. My mind was racing all the time. And so I did some different lab tests on myself. I did the Dutch Plus, found out that my cortisol levels were high but burned out as well. I found that I did a DNA test and came to find out that I had a slow COMT and a MTHFR. So that combination can sometimes result in high anxiety. And I was actually taking some supplements that I thought were helpful to myself, but actually were potentially increasing my anxiety and stress. So, for example, green tea, I've been drinking it for years. It's great. But if you drink too much and if you have too much caffeine with a slow COMT, it can accelerate that anxiety and build up too much because your body isn't able to get the drain unplugged, so to speak. And then there was the fact that I did have MTHFR. I didn't know anything at earlier years about methylation. So once I got on a good B vitamin, I think that helped a little. But also then I found out from my genetic profile and from I did a metabolomics test and I found out that my neurotransmitters were really high. And so I just learned the different ways in functional medicine how to mitigate those and modify those levels. And I've used a combination of trying to improve my sleep, taking different supplements that help me handle stress, avoiding other supplements that were counterproductive and just the right combination just for me and my genotype. And then, of course, fixing the gut. And all of that came together after about 4 months of doing this master plan on myself. I was like, oh my goodness, I'm sleeping so well and I'm so chill and I'm not worried about anything. And I just felt great. And I think that I don't even know which of those things worked better than the others, but I think it was a combination of things because we're complex individuals. Our bodies are not just one thing, and it all comes together. And I think that's the whole science of functional medicine. It's all the different systems functioning together and weaving together and how they all impact our health. And so when we're addressing something, I cannot tell you how many times I see people posting in a Facebook group, I've got anxiety. What can I take? And I want to say it's not just about one thing. You got to look at root causes. You got to look at what's going on in your body. Look what's not working. Are you having inflammation? Are you having, what's your genotype? What all these things come together. Do you have gut dysbiosis? And then you fix those things, and 99% of the time, I really think the vast majority of your problems get better, even the ones you didn't expect to get better because you're fixing the root causes.
Yeah, I just love that testimony so much. And, I just see so much. And I remember when I used to be a psych nurse, these people, they go on one drug and they go on more and more and more. And then no one is really working with them on their stress response, on their gut issues, on nutrient deficiencies. And a lot of these drugs deplete essential nutrients. And then they also cause other dysfunctions in the body. And it's just so sad to see because I would see people that had mental health issues that then were going on to develop diabetes or liver issues,
Mhm.
or other
Exactly.
conditions because of the medications that they are on. And this other component that functional medicine addresses is just completely left out of the equation. And it's so heartbreaking. And it's very sad because I feel like these individuals are not given proper informed consent. They're not even told that there are these alternatives. And I also do want to touch on limbic system. Yes, when last time I, massively upgraded the program, I added in some content on, limbic system, and then I also added in, like, elective biblical material, because what we are seeing is there are these concepts that the Bible repeatedly teaches that is now being confirmed by modern day research, and one of that is neuroplasticity and limbic system training, and to our listeners that are not familiar with this, so and we know good and well in medicine that when people have been exposed to trauma per the adverse childhood event study, early trauma in general, that kind of stress that occurs can cause health issues. The Bible says repeatedly over and over that our thought life influences our physical body. And then, so a couple of, got my Bible verses out. Anyway, Romans 12:2. Be transformed by the renewing of your mind. One of my
Yes.
other favorite verses, Philippians 4:8. Finally, brothers, whatever is true, whatever is honorable, whatever is just, whatever is pure, whatever is lovely, whatever is commendable, if there is any excellence, if there is anything worthy of praise, think about these things. And the thing is, when we dwell on what is true, what is lovely, that can retrain the brain. And I remember I also had some chronic stress responses for a long time. And for me personally, I had a lot of, forgiveness, unforgiveness that I was holding on to, and a lot of ruminating about bad things that happened. And it really was working through this with Christ that transformed my mind. And, we used to think that, like, okay, you have certain neural pathways and this is just how you are, but we're learning that that is not true. The study of neuroplasticity tells us that we can actually change those pathways. And we know that, like, anger, resentment, unforgiveness, grief, all of these things, if it's not resolved, it can contribute to chronic health conditions and absolutely mental health conditions. And again, I always tell my students, I'm like, this actually is scientifically confirmed that because we know it's mind, body, spirit, okay? We have a soul.
Mhm.
And, we need to address that part of health. However, when we talk about anything spiritual or religious, we always need to ask permission first. Because again, one thing that I just love about the Christian faith is God does not, He gives us free will. He does not force us to He doesn't force us to follow Him, but He loves us and He wants us to follow Him and read His word. but it is our choice to come to him. So again, just like as practitioners, if we have that faith-based background, I see it all the time that I see more tremendous results with people when they're incorporating their faith base. But again, you have to ask permission if that is okay with them. That way we're respecting their
Mhm.
choices. So, and tell me, again, I like to ask this question just to kind of, I think it gives a lot of hope to our audience with your health issues that you were struggling with. Cause I mean, you had, celiac and the mental health concerns and things like that. About what percentage would you say that you're better now today?
Oh, it's funny because I just turned 61 a couple weeks ago, and I was someone asked me, they said, "Do you feel 61?" I said, "You know what? I feel better now than I have my entire life," which is so crazy. And you have the occasional aches and pains after you've overexerted yourself and things like that. But I remember, oh my goodness, was it about 15 years ago? We were doing this major project on our farm, and I was out there and I could barely do 30 minutes and I was exhausted for the whole day. And I just, had joint pain and aches and pains and just no energy at all. And I can do so much more at 61 than I ever could do on the farm. I can push wheelbarrows and throw bales of hay and stuff like I never could do, not to that degree. And so, yes, I feel better. And then my stomach feels so much better. My mental health feels better. I would say maybe 85 to 90% better than I was. Um, I just leave that little margin because there's some days that you go out to a restaurant and you eat something you shouldn't. You have your bad days. But you know why, and you know how you can fix it. That's the beauty of it. So I really, I just, and I'm sure, there's so much more to learn. Something else I didn't mention was, before I went on this journey, I'm not overweight, but my A1C was rising and my cholesterol was super high. And again, I believe all these things go back to inflammation and dysfunction in the gut, etc. And once I fixed that and reduced that inflammation, those numbers came right down. Just amazing. And so, yeah, it's like, well, people ask the question, I don't want to go on a statin. What can I do for my cholesterol? Well, you know what? Chances are it's your inflammation in your body. Your diet's probably not the greatest, but there's a lot we can do. And if we can find out why your body's got inflammation, whether it's a food sensitivity or whether it's gut dysbiosis or whether, you're under too much stress, your cortisol's off. There's so many things, probably a multiple things. It's rarely one thing, but when we target that and we fix it, those numbers they come down. They get better. And so we don't have to go on all these crazy medications that have all these side effects. And, of course, I always tell my clients, talk to your doctor about it. I can't prescribe you this medication or tell you to go off of it. But um, if you want to get better, if you want to be healthy naturally, functional medicine is the way to go.
And one thing that you said that also really resonates is that you feel better and you look fantastic, by the way.
Thanks.
Not that, 60s is old now. I feel like 60s is like the new 50s, right? But anyway, so I have a similar story with that too, because and also being a nurse, I remember being told by my preceptors, like, well, mental health and chronic diseases, they tend to get progressively worse. And I believe that. Like, I believe, like, well, this is just the hand this person's been dealt. And every time you see your patients, they're a little worse. But then being on the other side of it, being on the functional medicine side of it. And then also, I also have a similar testimony to that. Like, well, I'm almost 41. And I cannot, I think back to like how I felt 8 years ago in my early 30s. And I remember, like, we had our son. I feel like I missed out in the first 3 years as it took me that long to find a good functional medicine provider that properly diagnosed me. But anyway, so I remember it would be like 7:30 and he wanted a book. And I remember just being like, "Oh, no, not a book." Almost like I'm so exhausted. I was so tired. Like, I would have to just lay down in the middle of the day. I remember I had some days where I had maybe, like, 2 hours of sustainable energy, and and you kind of learn to adapt because that's, like, your baseline. You live with it every single day. But now I, like, don't even have to think about, like, laying down in the middle of the day. And by the way, I did feel so amazing that I did have 2 back-to-back babies, and even now with my back-to-back babies, like, it's busy in my house, but, like, I'm good, I've got it, So, but yeah, and I always tell my students too, I'm like, these functional medicine modalities, the lab testing, all of these things, you can do this on yourself. Like, I have so many nurses that go through the program, and they use it as a wellness plan for themselves and their families, and then they have that experience and that testimony because when you're going to work with clients that are sick and suffering, I mean, they want to work with someone that genuinely cares and is going to do the research and work with them to make sure that they have a bio individualized plan. And I would love to really chat about what you're doing and your practice because I am just so excited for your success and that you are just like booking clients left and right. And but before we get into that, we do need to pause just for a moment for break. I do want to let all of you know if you are a fed up nurse, you do not need to be handcuffed to the sick care model. I absolutely can train you at the Functional Nurse Academy. We are the most comprehensive functional training on the market designed specifically for nurses. All of our graduates qualify for 90 nursing CEs, multiple board certification titles in functional medicine, and you also get business mentorship and support. So you can check that out at functionalnurseacademy.com. I also want to let you all know this show is also syndicated on the Nurses Report on America Out Loud Talk Radio. So you can also find me there and you can follow the Nurses Report and the Functional Nurse Academy podcast on any major podcast app. So please be sure that you like, subscribe, and follow. Hello, and welcome back. You are listening to the Functional Nurse Academy podcast. This is Melissa Schreibfetter, and I am joined today by Karen Bettison, who is another functional medicine nurse, and she is also the owner of Threadstone Integrative Health. And we are talking about her health journey and how she is using her experience to help clients across the country. Welcome back, Karen.
Thank you.
So, I would love to chat about your business. So, now I know that you mentioned that you do have expertise in cancer, but then you also work with all kinds of other health conditions. So, can you tell me about the type of services that you're offering in your business?
Well, I've kind of changed it over time. I started out with a concierge program, which is kind of like this big lump sum, and I'd order your lab tests for you, and we just do this comprehensive testing on everybody. And I started that way, and then I had a niche that I chose, but I wasn't particularly really getting a lot of clients in that niche, if any at all. And I was doing a lot of advertising and on social media, focusing a lot of effort on that. I frankly felt like I was losing a lot of money on advertising. In the end, I just trusted my gut instinct and I did what I knew. I had worked a lot of over the years with cancer. Now, I had talked a little bit about my own fears about getting cancer and the journey that my husband and I had been on and wanting to prevent cancer. So about 10 years ago, started posting information in a Facebook group I call Nutritional Healing. It was kind of like my clearinghouse of information on things that fought cancer naturally. And at the time, it was more herbal and, just, and that's what a lot of the supplements are, is they're botanicals, they're natural substances. And then, of course, there was nutrition, brought that into it as well. And so I just kind of put it on there and I invited friends to the group. And as that grew, um, it just seems like more and more strangers started joining the group and wanting information, whether it was from word of mouth or it was just floating out there on social media. So that was sort of a free type of advertising. But then I had quite a sizable list of friends in my Facebook world and Instagram. And so I thought, you know what, I'm just going to start there. It's really hard, I think, in today's environment to earn people's trust who don't know you, especially in this space when there's so many people out there. It's like, who do you trust? Who do you go to? And so I really felt like something you said in your training program was start with people you know and build the confidence and the reputation by word of mouth. And I just kind of ran with that. I said, forget the advertising. I'm just going to do that. And so I've adapted my program a little bit. I've had a lot of friends that were, for example, missionaries, and they just really couldn't afford the big program. So I offered it to them at half price for, a discount. I tried different pricing things, and I think right now I have a one little lump sum and then a subscription. I think people can afford that more. More people are signing up now that I have that model. But basically, it's the same thing. It's, I do an intake. I have intake forms. We have an initial interview, which can take up to an hour, and then maybe more in-depth one after we get the test results back that we decide to run. Sometimes that can take 2 hours, and we go into all the details of the findings. What can you do? We go over the wellness plan. I recommend supplements. I have several e-stores, including a full scripts account. So just whatever works for the client and their finances, I really want to make it something they can afford, something they can do, because that's the important thing. I've chosen to continue working on the side part time because I do want to stay in the field of nursing, but I don't want to hold back on helping people because maybe they can't afford it. Um, so I have, we all offer our program to family and friends, sometimes at a discount. So I have done that, but I feel like I have a fairly affordable program. And I do think that as I get clients, it seems that they come to me, each one with their own unique issues. And I feel dedicated to being their detective, helping them find the problem that they're having and get to the root cause and solving that problem. So I may not have all the answers going into it, but I have the tools and I have the skills that I've learned in my training. And so I'm confident that we can get you to feeling better and that we can get you to a place where, you're at you're further along in your health journey and we're going to find those answers together. So is it 100% effective? I would say that no functional medicine practitioner out there could probably say that it's 100%, but I've had good success. I've had patients or I should say clients that have gone off of their blood pressure medications. And I had one client who did all the things I recommended. And out of sympathy, her husband decided to do the same thing. And he wasn't even my client. He just did what she did and his arthritis went away, his cholesterol went down, he lost 15 pounds, and I mean, he just started feeling better himself just by doing those things in sympathy with his wife. So 100% across the board, these things help you feel better. You get to a better place. And in many cases, um, you're just if it's cancer, we can't always say anything can cure cancer, but we can do a lot of things that get our bodies to the place where they're going to fight cancer better. We know that. And that we have a better odds at beating it. And so that's how I try to explain it. I use this analogy, the tin roof. In Africa, we had tin roofs. And so it's a great for me, it's a very real analogy because we had holes in our roof sometimes. Well, with cancer, it's like you got a tin roof and you got 37 holes in your roof. And when you got 37 holes in your roof, you can't stop the house from flooding. If you had two holes in your roof, you might be able to stop it. But with 37 holes, you can't. And so you have to, that's the way cancer is sometimes. It's because you've got 37 contributing factors, not just one sometimes. And so we got to find out what those contributing factors are and one by one plug those holes so that your odds are your house isn't going to flood. Or if it's going to flood, your body's going to be able to overcome it. And our bodies were made to heal naturally, but not necessarily with the onslaughts that they are exposed to today, like toxins and the poor diet that we live on and the stress that we live under in our culture. And you get this combination of things that just assault the body and it can't keep up. And so cancer takes over and gets an advantage. So if we look at it that way, we can start turning the tides of the battle, so to speak, and win that battle naturally if we plug those holes.
And this is really one of the reasons why functional medicine has been proven to overall improve health outcomes and reduce healthcare costs. And we know that there's a lot of industries that are threatened by functional medicine. So I really do think that
Mm.
online, especially within social media, there's a lot of pushback. Even on Wikipedia, it says, which, Wikipedia is not exactly a trusted source of information, but Wikipedia says that somehow, looking at the root causes and environmental lifestyle factors, somehow that's quackery, but these things are real and it makes sense. And I remember one of my dearest friends got diagnosed with, and she's in remission now, she's doing great, but she got diagnosed with stage 3 breast cancer, I believe in her 30s. And, the nutritionist that she worked with, the nutritionist at the hospital told her it didn't matter what she ate as long as it was low fat. And, but then again, we know that we don't, and I do think that there have been some steps to improve it, which I'm very grateful for. But for a long time, there have been a lot of regulatory loopholes that are allowing known carcinogens, level 1, class 1 carcinogens in our personal care products to be sprayed on our food. There are even heavy metal adjuvants such as aluminum being injected into people. There are so many things that we're exposed to, and it is just unbelievable that an individual will get a cancer diagnosis and then again they're offered the standard of care, for cancer treatment. But then no one is working with them on what are you eating? What are you being exposed to?
Mhm.
You know, what about your stress response? Are you sleeping? God designed the body to heal when we are in deep restorative sleep. Are you getting deep restorative sleep? God also designed us to heal in parasympathetic nervous system mode. Are you constantly in fight or flight? Like there's so many things we can do. And again, like there are even many exercises that we can teach the clients we work with that are free, like helping people to, helping people with breath work exercises, helping people with limbic system retraining, circadian rhythm retraining. There's so many things that we can do that don't involve this like crazy expensive wellness product. And I also did want to kind of circle back around to the business side of it because I know I know a lot of nurses listen to this and they're just so they want to hear the success stories of other nurses that have been through the program. And I do agree with you. And I like that you took my recommendation to kind of start with people that because we know online, especially on social media, you have access to so many people. It really opens up the doors. But there are a lot of people that are not practicing with integrity, and there's a lot of people selling stuff. So people are distrustful. And word of mouth is king. It is absolutely
Mm.
king. If you serve your clients well, they're going to tell everybody about you. And then I know for me, if I have someone that calls and does a discovery call that they were referred by another client I have, I know that they're going to sign up with me because they already know someone that have the experience. They already know what the investment is, and that person is serious and committed. But I like that, in the beginning, like when you're a brand new functional nurse, people don't really know what you're doing yet. You're still working on your social proof. I think that that is a very, very wise business move is to kind of look at, okay, what is competitive in your area, and then to discount your programs from there. And then as you get a stronger referral basis, you can move up to what is, competitive in your area if you choose to. And I also am hearing from, I do also like to hear because I do really work to try to help nurses get out of the system and get their businesses set up. But I'm also hearing about so many committed nurses that they love being a nurse in the hospital. And I have many nurses that choose to stay in there like on a part-time basis because they love the patients that they work with. And again, there's an impact that nurses can make if we want to completely exit the system and go full in on our businesses. But you also can still make an impact if you are still even, part-time or PRN in that system, because there's also an opportunity to transform that system from the inside, because when we go to
Yeah,
work and you're in
that's
the
true.
hospital setting and you're talking about these like, holistic functional medicine based things with other nurses and with patients, that can also spread the word about functional medicine. And I did want to ask you, so um I'm just curious, since you're still part-time in the system, do your coworkers, like, know what you're doing with the functional medicine business, and are they supportive?
Yeah, actually, it provides a great opportunity to share with people what you're doing and open their eyes to it. I've actually had a few nurses take down your information and think about signing up. So I don't know if they have yet, but I've talked about the program. I've talked about, I've looked at a lot of different programs. I was in a different program before I joined yours, and it was very expensive. I went into debt very fast, doing all the, like I said, the advertising, all the things and the cost of the program. But then I found yours, and it was so affordable and reasonable. And I think the foundation was just solid. And so I've been recommending it as a great place to start. Not that any of us should ever stop learning, because we all should continue learning beyond our training, but it's great foundational and it's super affordable. And it's just right, I think, for the nurse. And I started, uh, like I said, in another program, and I just felt like I was just spinning my wheels, spending so much money, and when you're starting out, you don't have that much. You got to start slow and don't expect to just boom overnight. And honestly, I like the pace that I operate on. I have two grandkids. I spend time with them every week. My husband and I have this small hobby farm out in the country. We like to spend time doing that. I don't want a business that is so busy that I have to be a full-time social media influencer. I need to have just my clientele. That's me. That's my choice. But if you wanted to do those things, go right ahead. But I really felt like I needed to find what fit in my personality, my pace, and taking on, you know, two to five clients a month is plenty for me. Uh, I stay very busy with that, plus everything else I'm doing. But there's some people that want more than that. So that's up to them. But again, I don't want to get to the place in my life that I'm so stressed out that my health declines again. So I need, especially I'm 61. This is kind of when you start thinking about retirement. And that was actually one of the motivational factors of why I went into functional medicine is I couldn't work full time anymore. I needed to start slowing down. I wanted something I could do from home. This fits it perfectly. I can fit it around my schedule. I block off my schedule and time slots for people to sign up for a consultation or a meeting. It's my schedule, and that flexibility is priceless. So that's kind of how I landed where I'm at right now.
Yeah, yeah. And again, you know, I hear this a lot that when nurses start their businesses, they have more time to actually live their life. And one of the models I teach, and again, like, we know that this model does not work when you are, seeing like, 30 clients per day, like a, average primary care provider office, they may be seeing 30 patients per day, and they
Mhm.
could have 4 patients booked in a 1-hour time slot. And you cannot provide good quality care that way. It's set up to
Right.
fail. And the system that I like to teach is, really, you can exceed your income from what the hospital could pay you doing working within functional medicine programs. And then, like, for my model, what I did is I worked about, 20 hours a week from home, and I would sign about 10 full-time clients quarterly. And then that really made it to where I wasn't overwhelmed with my workload, and I was able to do a good job. Then I was also able to spend time with family and things like that. So, now, but yeah, no, I'm so glad that you've been able to master this work-life balance, and it is so wonderful that you were able to spend time with your grandbabies, because it's just
Yes.
there's so much more joy when you're able, you don't want, so I feel like some of these positions that people are in. I mean, I know so many people that their job is consuming way too much of their life, and it's not good for the soul. So, well, I would love
Yeah.
to hear a little bit more. I'm so glad you had a good experience with the Functional Nurse Academy, and this was one of the reasons too why I hear it all all the time. Nurses that, well, I don't want to speak poorly of any other program, but there are a lot of programs out there that are really, really expensive. And when I went through the ringer as a functional medicine client myself, I saw that there was such a push for me to take very expensive functional medicine tests that were marked up, and also a push for me to be on all of these supplements every single month that were also marked up. And I think that that was happening because so many functional practitioners go into a tremendous amount of debt. So then when they're starting their business, they, in a way, are reliant on their clients having to buy so many wellness products and whatnot from them. And it's really diminishing the quality of functional medicine care. So that was one of the reasons why I wanted to offer an affordable program to nurses. And then we're able to do that because we are a small business. We work from home and we get a ton of like word of mouth referrals. But yeah, we didn't want our students to like start off in their business in a crazy amount of debt. Like, we wanted to offer a good
Mhm.
value because, the lower your overhead is, the more likely it is that you're going to be successful in business. But I would love to hear about, how Functional Nurse Academy helped you with your business.
Well, one of the things that I really liked about the program, first of all, again, was that it was less expensive. And there was I could achieve my goal of completing the program within a given time. I think, you said minimum 6 weeks up to a year. And so there was flexibility there. I ended up doing it maybe in 3 months, I think. And that I wanted to get my board certification. And I know not everybody values that equally in different programs, but I valued it. I felt like it would increase my credibility. And I wanted to have that on my website. I wanted people to know that this is, especially again, in this world where we don't know who to trust, I felt like that was a mark of approval that you have the credibility that you need. So I really wanted that. So you guys offer that. I think that's fantastic. There's different options in that as well. And I think it's really great that your program is receiving recognition like that because that also validates the training that we all get if we go through your program. So that that means a lot. And then I also looking at the content, again, I'm a Christian. I was really excited to see that you had a Christian perspective. That optional module, I went through that, and it was very relevant to me because I like to bring that into my practice. I'd say Not all my clients are Christians, but the vast majority of them are. And we are whole people, and our mind, body, and spirit heal together. And so I like to bring that all in if I can, if the person is open. I think that's the way we're made, and that's the way God intended it. So I was glad to see you did that. It gave me also a sense of confidence in you as a person, that you have a good heart and you're bringing something to people because you care as well.
Well, thank you so much. And again, like I feel like, and also as nurses, I think I kind of think that we get like a feel for people. I don't know. We're just good. A good nurse is a good people person, and I think that like we can tell when someone's heart is not in it. And I like to teach my nurses too. It's kind of like when you are working with your client and trying to help them get better, it needs to come from the heart. And also we need to set up our businesses to where we're not overwhelmed and stressed out, because then that also is going to affect the kind of results that we're going to have with the clients that we serve. And I'm also curious, could you speak to the return on investment from taking F&A?
Are you talking about financially or?
Yes, yeah. So my one of my goals with FNA is like I wanted to create a program that will essentially pay for itself, because it's a program that can help you guys to be able to sign clients into your functional medicine
Sure.
programs and get your business up and running.
hmm Well, I just graduated in December, and
Congratulations.
thanks. Yeah. So, I mean, like I said, I started my practice last year with a different program, so I'd already, gotten my business launched. Already was in debt. So, it's in terms of the extra expense, I would say, easily I've I've replaced that cost, what I put into it. So, if it was just having started from the beginning, probably I would be fine, I wouldn't be in debt. But I, slowly I'm cleaning up that debt that I incurred from the other program and from my other all that advertising I did, and um, just not realizing how it was going to, you know, accumulate so fast. And there's a lot of expenses setting up your own business. I chose a website called heal.me because I tried different modalities and I liked them, just because they had a really good fit for me. It's not for everybody, there's different ways, but I was looking at cost as well. So between the website and, you've got to pay for your business, your LLC. There's costs involved in that. I'd already done that as well. And then, you just even, little things, bookkeeping things, you might need a new computer, you might need just equipment, but most of those kind of things most people have. So really, I'd say the biggest expenses are just, your program and your LLC. And then, um, you know, you may have uh, to do, I recommend everybody treat themselves as the first client. So then I had to pay for all the testing on myself. And I was able, as a test client, I wrote those off as expenses because I feel like, that's obviously you're learning in the program, but that was an expense. So there may be clients that you're going to take on, and it's recommended sometimes to find friends who want to be your test clients as well. And you may offer to pay for their tests, to help them, help learn yourself. So that might be another expense that you have, but it really is up to you. There's no cut and dried, so, you don't have to do it that way. And I encourage everybody to take it at their own pace and not get into debt. So you pay for your program and then sign your clients up little by little, and it pays for itself eventually. So yeah.
Yeah, that's so good to hear. And also, so I'm at your website right now. It looks lovely. I love how you have your list of just all of these different health conditions that you can support people with. So, and I also like that you have a option if people want to book a discovery call with you. So for our non-nurse listeners, that's basically when a practitioner is offering where you can just get on a risk-free call with them, because again, this is how healthcare should be moving in this direction, that when you want to find a practitioner to work with, you should be able to talk to that person first, because again, you are going to, after that conversation, you will get an idea, is this the right practitioner for me? So
Yeah.
I just know that we're going to have people that are going to want to get on the phone with you, because there's so many people that are just really in need of, working with a knowledgeable, ethical, functional medicine nurse. So, where can our clients go to find you?
Okay. Well, my website is www.threadstoneintegrativehealth.com. If you get to the website, there's a tab where you can click on, and there, you can book a free discovery call there. And that's where I listen to whatever your concerns are. And we decide together if it's a good fit. So that's a good place to start. And then after that, if you decide you want to move forward, we can sign you up, and then we'll have more set more appointments. I have a calendar linked to my website, so you can book there. And also, once you're my client, then I make it easy for you to contact me. You can contact me by email, or I have a phone number that you can reach me in an emergency. So I want to be available. I want to make it so that you're not left hanging. I mean, there's nothing more frustrating in my mind when, you're gonna do this home test and you don't know how to do it, and you're having, you know, confusion reading the instructions and following them through. So I want to be there to walk you through that no matter what. So, or whatever it is, I want to be there for you. And so my commitment is, once you're my client and you're a subscription client, I'm there for you whenever you need it. And so I find that it works really well. I don't feel like people abuse that. So it works well. And then I'm available.
I love that. And that is the number one reason, by the way, that people are not successful with functional medicine programs is they're not getting enough support. And, I remember my first functional medicine experience, which is a disaster. They just I just gave them a whole bunch of money. They sold me a bunch of stuff and then they made me worse. But anyway, it was like, oh, here's a 4-month protocol of like probably $1,000 of supplements per month. It's crazy. And then there was no support, like if I had an issue, I would call the front office and I would get someone that didn't know what I was talking about. And so I love that, if they're, because again, when we're working with people through lifestyle nutrition, making those changes, people feel so much more secure when they have that support system. And another reason why I love these, concierge functional nursing practices is like, if you need to reach out to your functional nurse, you can reach out to them directly and they will help you through it. So, and also
Yeah.
another question. So, we have listeners from all over the country. Are you working with individuals? Do you have multi state access?
Yes, I work in everywhere except New York, New Jersey, and
Uh
Rhode
huh.
Island.
Okay, wonderful. Cool. So I will make sure. So for our listeners, if you would like to reach out to Karen, I'm going to put all of her links in the show notes. I also will put a link if you want to get on a discovery call with her and see if that's going to be a good fit for you. I'll put that down there as well. Because again, it's so important to have someone that like truly cares and is knowledgeable and has expertise in your corner. So and one other thing. Okay, so if you are ordering labs, I know you have access to order lab testing. Are you able
Mhm.
to do that for clients out of state as well?
Yes.
Awesome. Yeah, so that's another thing. Like so many people they're just not getting the correct labs ordered. And with nurses, we know how to read those labs. We may not be able to use it to diagnose and treat, but we can use it to educate and then to advocate. And there's so much you can learn about potential dysfunctions from your lab testing.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. And I
well,
do work. Oh, sorry. I was just saying I
Oh, go
do
ahead.
work with three different labs, and I had a physician service that I work with as well. So
hmm Wonderful. Well, it was so great to have you on the show. I'm so happy for all of the great work that you're doing. And again, you can learn more about Karen at threadstoneintegrativehealth.com. And to all of our listeners, thank you so much for listening to this episode. And at the Functional Nurse Academy podcast, I really enjoy just sharing these stories from nurses that have been through the program and are having success. I also like to have a variety of experts within the field on as well, so we can just get more functional medicine education out there. But please be sure to like, subscribe, follow. If you could leave us a review, I would really appreciate it, because then that is something else that helps more nurses to learn about this podcast and our program. And if you are interested in becoming a functional medicine nurse, I'm going to drop the link to our next informational webinar, which will also be in the show notes. And the website, of course, is functionalnurseacademy.com, so you can learn more there as well. Thank you to all of our listeners for tuning in. And until next time, be safe, be well, and God bless.